What is up, Insaners, and welcome to another video of the Fantasy Premier League 2021-22 season. Today we'll be talking about wildcarding in Game Week 8, guys. Why and who should wildcard this week? What are the best case and worst case possibilities? We'll also look into some drafts and talk about some of the best players to target. If you like today's video, guys, make sure you hit the like button. You can also consider subscribing if you're new around here. We're slowly but steadily marching towards the 1000 subscribers mark, guys, and I really appreciate your support. So guys, we'll straight away dive into why you should wildcard in Game Week 8. Now before you use a wildcard chip, guys, it's very important to have certain pointers in mind that why are you using your wildcard? Do you really need it? I think that assessment is very important to make. Of course, different game weeks will have different pointers, but specifically for Game Week 8, guys, I think the wildcard could be really important because of the international break, guys. I think it's a really important time where you could take a break, you could understand what has happened with your team so far, what are the points that you've gathered, what are the hits, what are the misses. You can assess all the information available and then kind of build your team from there. So let's say if you have the likes of Man United, maybe a double up or triple up, you have the likes of Jota, Benrahma, Sarr, even Everton midfielders, right? If you don't like these options, if you don't want to continue with them and you have a lot of transfers to make, I think that's the right time to use your wildcard because it's like you don't have to take a lot of hits for these moves and you can do all of them in one go. It could also be a possibility that the international break could give you some surprises. There could be certain players that could get injured, and the break, I think it gives you an opportunity to get all of that information again and make those moves, make those transfers, which I think a lot of people will miss on who would be using regular transfers. Another very important reason to go for the wildcard, guys, is that if you want to change your structure, let's say you're playing a 3-5-2 with a Scarlet or with a 4.5 million option, you want to change that, you don't want to continue with that. Let's say you want to play with 3 strikers up top, 3 playing strikers, have that flexibility with the 4th or the 5th midfielder. Maybe you put in a cheaper option there. Or let's say you go heavy in the back with 4 good defenders and you want to change the way you play. I think that would really give you the push to play the wildcard in this particular week. Another very important reason to play the wildcard in this game week, guys, is to catch the price rises. Now, of course, a lot of players are gaining popularity. They would be increasing in price. Plus, you would also want to avoid certain players in your team who might be losing value, who might drop in price. And I think it's a great time to get rid of those players and get the valuable and the popular players in your team and build a good squad value. One last reason for using the wildcard for this particular week, guys, is the fixture swings. Now we know that Chelsea, maybe even Man City and the likes of Southampton, they have decent fixtures. So if you want to target players from these teams, if you want to make a couple of transfers, maybe more transfers which you might not be able to accommodate through your regular moves, I think it's a great time to get in those Chelsea defenders, get in those Man City players, defenders, maybe even take a punt on a Man City attacker. I know it's a bit risky, but play the odds, play the pep roulette and get in that player. I think if you want to make all these moves and if you're far off from all of this, right, I think using the wildcard will give you a good edge. Now these pointers are specifically for people who are probably undecided right now whether to play the wildcard or not. And in case if you're playing it, I think these pointers are a good start. But let's say if you don't want to play it, right, if you are thinking whether you should play it or not, and you're probably on the other side of things, there's also an option to play it in Game Week 13. Now in case, guys, if you have a couple of Chelsea options, maybe even a Man City player, and let's say you also have a couple of free transfers, you can easily fix whatever your problem is. Guys, this is really important. You can easily fix whatever your problem is, maybe without even taking a hit or at max taking one hit. I think you should save your wildcard and you should use it for a later time. Now, what is that later time, right? I think that's also very important to understand if you're taking that decision. Now, the later time, guys, could be Game Week 13. Of course, by that time, you'll have a much larger data set. By the time 12 game weeks would have been played, so you would have understood what kind of players to go for, what kind of players are consistently performing. Are there certain players that are in your team and you should avoid them? Maybe certain players who are not regular starters anymore. So all of this information, right? I think more game weeks will give you a better idea. So playing it in Game Week 13 would definitely give you that edge. Another important point, guys, could be that you might have a larger budget as well. Let's say there's certain players in your team who are rising in value, who would have a higher price. If you combine all of this value, you might have a bigger budget for the wildcard and you just might be able to get a better squad. Now, of course, with every decision also comes a downside, guys. The big downside for this particular decision for playing your wildcard in Game Week 13 is that you would have missed a lot of fixture swings. You won't be able to target the likes of West Ham, target the likes of Chelsea, who would have tough fixtures. You would have also gotten rid of probably Arsenal options, which might be appealing at the moment. Now you have the likes of Leeds, Leicester, Liverpool, maybe even Tottenham, who have decent fixtures. But again, right now we don't have a lot of options from most of these teams, let's say apart from Liverpool, and I think that would be a major miss. Another very important downside, guys, would be that you would have missed a lot many price rises. Now there might be certain players who would rise in price a lot of times, and I think at that time, by that moment, you might not be able to afford certain players, which might be a possibility right now. So that's a downside that you get. One last important thing, guys, could be that there are no big fixture swings available, and the wildcard at that time might not give you a big advantage. So take in all this information, guys. It's really important. And it's very team specific, right? The wildcard decision is very team specific. There's no right or wrong answer here. You have to look at your team. If you feel that there are a lot of issues, lot of problems with your team, and you want to overhaul your team, maybe even change your structure, go for the wildcard, guys. Press that button and start making your team right away. On the other hand, guys, if you feel that you can sort issues in your team with a couple of moves, then probably don't use the wildcard right now and save it for the later time. Now with that, guys, let's get into the drafts and we'll start off with the first one. Now guys, the first draft is probably one of the popular drafts that would be used in this particular week. There are a couple of punts in there, but I think this is going to be a very popular one. Now in this draft, guys, you have a heavier defense. You have 3 really good defenders. The main part about this draft, guys, the main part about this defense, it has Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think he's going to be fine. He's going to be back in game week 8. And if you don't want to go without him, that is absolutely fine. And you can have him in your team. Now with Trent as well, guys, there are a couple of downsides. Now I technically don't see them as downsides because he has a lot of attacking threat. He has a lot of positives. But still, I think there are certain issues with having Trent as well. Now the biggest issue is that you've already invested a sizable amount of your money in a defender. And let's say you also go with options like Rudiger from Chelsea, maybe even Cancelo from Man City, you would have invested a lot of money in your defense. Now there's nothing wrong with that, guys, but I still feel there are a lot of players who don't like to invest a lot of money in defense. But this season, guys, that might not be the case. We surely know by now that the likes of Chelsea and Man City have really good defenses. There's a good chance that they will keep clean sheets. And if we can target players who also can give us an attacking upside, I think that's going to be huge, guys. This particular decision could make or break your FPL season. Now in this draft, we have Rudiger, who doesn't give you a lot of attacking threat, but you still get that safety in terms of starts. I think he's going to start majority of the games for Chelsea, and you don't have to worry for any kind of roulette here. We've not gone for the likes of Alonso or Chilwell because I feel there's a lot of rotation on that side for Chelsea. We're really not sure who's going to play majority of the games. It looks like Chilwell might take place of Alonso right now, at least for the easier set of fixtures, but I think, guys, it's too early to even predict that. You also have the option of going for Azpilicueta, but I think between Rudiger and Azpilicueta, I would prefer Rudiger at a cheaper value, as both are guaranteed in terms of starts, and Azpilicueta might not be as attacking as he's been in the last game if the likes of Reece James returns into the Chelsea team. Now, a lot of people are expecting James to return in a week or maybe even 2, and when that happens, guys, I think Azpilicueta could move to the right centre-back spot and Reece James could take the right wing-back spot. If that thing happens, guys, I think Reece James could be an option, and you could make that switch later on if James becomes a regular feature in the Chelsea side. For now, we're only going with Rudiger. Now, we also have the likes of Cancelo, and you could argue the case for a Ruben Dias here, who looks like the most nailed City defender in the team. Yes, he doesn't give you a lot of attacking upside. He won't give you a huge goal threat. It's not completely impossible, guys. There's a chance that Diaz could give you an attacking return. But if you have that risk appetite and you can take that chance, I think going with Cancelo looks like the best move to go for. Right now, at least, you're getting that security of starts. But I think with Pep, it's a little tricky to predict. At least for now, he looks nailed. And he's also giving you that huge attacking upside. I think he's a great option to go for. Apart from these two options, I probably won't look at anyone else. Let's say like Laporte or even Stones, who's not playing right now. I don't see them as options. I think it's between Cancelo and Diaz for me. In terms of other options, guys, we've gone for Tierney in this particular draft. Of course, if you don't have the money, you'll probably have to go for someone like a White. There's also a case to be made that you don't have to go for a double up in Arsenal, guys, as we already have Ramsdale in goal. So you can also altogether avoid the Tierney pick. If you still want to have the double Arsenal defense, guys, you could still go for someone like a White, who won't give you any goal threat, but he could still give you some bonus points, and he definitely gives you that clean sheet potential. Other options include Semedo, guys, from Wolves, who again could give you certain clean sheets. I'm not very hopeful on Wolves to give clean sheets, but he definitely has more attacking upside than someone like a White. You can consider Semedo as your Wolves attacker, and that could be a great option as well. Our final defender is the cheaper option that we have in this team, guys. It's Livramento. I think he's the best option in that 4 to 4.5 million category, and he also gives you attacking threat. Yes, you have the option to not play him for most weeks, but with the Southampton fixtures turning and they have decent fixtures coming up now, I think he becomes a genuine option to go for. We know that he's attacking, we know that he's nailed for now, and he could give you decent points if you select him in your team. So a decent defense overall, and now let's look at the midfield. Now in midfield, guys, I think there are two picks that easily stand out. You have the likes of Salah and Rafinha, who I feel are must-have options in your team. Now we'll start with Salah first. I think he's the best premium option in the game, guys. At that price, of course, he's very expensive, but he's giving you a lot of returns. He's giving you goals, he's giving you assists, he's on penalties as well, he's giving you bonus points, and he's scoring every week, guys. He's almost scoring every week. He's almost providing an attacking return every week, and that is what you want from your premium option. Plus, I think you also get that safe captaincy pick week on week, and I think he's a pretty dependable captaincy option. I think even if he has a tougher fixture, guys, there is still merit in captaining someone like a Salah who could give you a great captaincy haul. Now, second option, Rafinha, I think he's also the best option. He's the best pick in that 6 to 6.5 million budget midfielder price category, guys. I think you don't have to look beyond Rafinha if you're looking at your number one pick in that category. Yes, Leeds haven't been that great this season so far, guys, and specifically with Bamford out, I think Rafinha's taken up that mantle. He's playing that attacking role. Whatever's happening in Leeds, in the Leeds attack, whatever's going through in the attack is all going through Rafinha, guys. He's the main attacking threat. He's also become a great goal scorer now. So with better finishing, with higher chances, with even creating more chances, I think Rafinha is a great option to go for. If you see Leeds' upcoming fixtures, guys, they're great games coming up. And if you really have to take a budget option in your team, I think he has to be the number one pick to go for. Now, apart from that, guys, is where things get pretty interesting. You have 3 spots and then you can play around and fiddle with your team. Now, in this particular draft, we've gone ahead for Phil Foden. I think that's one of the most interesting picks in this team, guys. Yes, he's a Man City midfielder. Yes, he's a Man City attacker. Yes, there'll be rotation. There will be pep roulette and he might miss a game or two. But I think with the wildcard, if you are using your wildcard, he's a great punt to go for. I know, guys, that he didn't feature in the first 4 games for Man City because of his injury, but I still feel he will be getting more minutes. He's getting better, he's getting more fitter, and there would be certain stars that would be given to him. This is in spite of the Champions League games coming up, guys. I still feel it's a risk worth taking. Yes, you also have the likes of Grealish in that price category, but I just feel Grealish is not able to click right now. He's playing well. Don't get me wrong, guys. He's playing really well, but he's just not translating that game into FPL points, into FPL returns. And for that reason, I think he's not the best City midfielder to go for. Now, if you really want to go a differential route and if you are okay taking that premium pick, I think KDB is also an option, but for me personally, at that price range, guys, I don't think so he's worth it. I still feel he'll be playing majority of the games for Man City, at least in the upcoming fixtures, because he's a main player for the team. But at that price, maybe on penalties, maybe not, you're still not very sure about it, and the roulette to kind of feature in as well. I think there are better options, better picks to go for. So standout Man City midfielder, guys, the Man City attacker would be Phil Foden, the number 2 pick would be Grealish, and then probably would come KDB. In this particular draft, guys, we've gone for a cheaper 5th midfielder in Douglas Luiz. He's a regular starter for Villa right now. He's also in certain set pieces, free kicks, etc. So he could be a decent option. He has been giving a couple of assists as well. So at 4.5, guys, I don't think so you can go much wrong. There are a lot of other options as well, but I think Douglas Luiz pick looks pretty safe. Now coming to forwards, I think this is where it's going to be very, very popular, guys. These would be the top 3 picks for majority of the people playing the wild card, among forwards at least. You have the likes of Antonio, Jimenez and Lukaku, who are all 3 starters for their team. They would be getting regular minutes, they would be scoring goals, they would be getting attacking returns, and you really can't go wrong with these picks. Jimenez has decent games, he's been in good form. I think he's also taken that extra creator role, which could give him a lot of assists as well. So I think he's a good option to go for. Now also Lukaku is pretty much a no-brainer. Of course you can make that argument of Ronaldo versus Lukaku, but I feel Lukaku over these next run of fixtures, he could be a great option to go for. In fact, I feel he's a better option to go for as compared to a Ronaldo or maybe even a Kane. He was a bit unlucky to not get a haul in the last game week against Southampton, but I don't feel it's gonna be every week. I still feel he's Chelsea's main attacker and he's gonna get you goals and FPL points. Now we'll come to the second draft, guys. Now this draft has the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold, Rudiger, Cancelo, and even Livramento from the earlier draft. We've switched Tierney to white to save some money here, and then we can make potential upgrades in midfield with the likes of Saka, Buemo, and Gallagher, who's probably coming in place of Foden. Now with that downgrade to Foden, you will save some money, and with that money, you can make those upgrades to Saka and Buemo. As I mentioned earlier, Rafinha and Salah are pretty much set and forget. In terms of our attack, I think we've also gone a bit differential here. We've stayed with the likes of Lukaku, who I feel is also a great captaincy option for the upcoming game weeks, and you want that safer captaincy option here as well. Now with the other two picks, guys, we've gone a bit interesting. We've gone for Hwang, who is a differential from the Wolves team. Now he is getting regular minutes. He's started to get more minutes in the Wolves team, in the Wolves attack. And we've seen that he has a great scoring record in Germany as well. He has decent numbers, and I still feel he could be a cheeky differential in your team. If you want to do things differently, or if you're looking for a cheaper option, if you don't have the money to go for an expensive forward, I think Wang could be a great option. If he starts scoring goals for Wolves, guys, he could make a mockery of that price. Personally, for me, I think I would wait and watch a little bit more. I would at least want to give it a couple of more game weeks to understand how many minutes he's getting and what are the numbers that he's posting. And after that, guys, I think that would be the time to move on to him and get him in your team. Third option is pretty interesting, guys. It's Jamie Vardy. I know a lot of people aren't really talking about him. In fact, majority of the people are not talking about Jamie Vardy as a potential option. I think he's going under the radar massively, guys. He's been performing really well. He's been scoring goals. And I feel if you really want to get him, there is a chance, there is a way to get him in your team without letting go of the likes of Trent, Salah, and maybe even Lukaku in your team. Personally, with this team, I don't feel the balance is really way off or it's wavered. I think it's pretty decent. You also have a decent couple of differentials in Wang and Buemo, who could also be a great option. Yes, the midfield is a bit risky with Saka, Buemo, and Gallagher, because generally I don't think so that they'll be scoring every week. They'll be giving returns every week. And plus, you also have that playing headache. You have that headache of which player to play in your 11 week on week, because they're all regular starters in their respective teams, and it might be a tricky decision. But at least with this draft, you have a potential option to go 4-4-2. You can even play 3-4-3 or play a 3-5-2 when the fixtures get tough for certain players. Not a bad draft, guys. I pretty much like it, and let's move on to the next one. Now, third draft is very interesting, guys. This draft is without Trent Alexander-Arnold. We're not going ahead with the Liverpool player. There could be a possibility that he might not return for game week 8. And if that is the case, guys, the next game is against Man United, and you can possibly hold on to having him till probably game week 12 or 13 when the fixtures get a bit easier. I think there is a certain merit in probably letting go of Trent and having other players, having the likes of Chelsea and Man City defenders in your team to cover them up. So in this particular draft, we've gone for a double Man City defense in Cancelo and Diaz. We've already mentioned that Diaz is the most nailed option and would be my second pick, would be my number 2 pick if I have to pick a second Man City defender. We've gone for one Chelsea defender in Rudiger, who looks like the most nailed, and then we have 2 cheaper defenders. So in most likelihood, guys, this particular team, it allows us to play a 3 at the back. And in case if a fixture is tough for the 5th midfielder or the 3rd attacker, then in that case, guys, we can play the 4th defender. So we have the likes of Duffy and Livramento, who are both cheaper options, and we could play them for the easier games. In midfield, we've gone for the picks that we've already kind of discussed. We have Saka, Buemo, we have Foden, and Rafinha and Salah stay. In attack as well, it's the popular front 3 with Antonio, Jimenez, and Lukaku, with Lukaku and Salah being great captaincy options as well. I think this particular draft is a combination of the safer options as well as a couple of punts as well. So if you want a kind of a balanced squad, I think this is the one to go for. We'll come to the 4th and the final draft here, guys. Now in this draft, we're going ahead without Trent Alexander-Arnold, and we've gone for 2 Chelsea and 2 City defenders, which is also going to be quite popular in case you don't go ahead with Trent. Now the second Chelsea option is Azpilicueta, guys. It's not Reece James right now. If we get a confirmation during the international break that Reece James is fit, he will be playing in game week 8. I think he would be the one to go for here, and you also could save some money with the James pick. I feel James is going to be a nail starter when he returns, and that would give him an opportunity to attack even more, to get more attacking returns, as opposed to Azpilicueta, who might shift to the right centre back position and who might just give you clean sheet points. The midfield kind of remains the same with Saka, Buemo, Foden, Rafinha and Salah. Now in attack, guys, we've gone ahead with Ivan Toney from Brentford, We are attacking those Brentford fixtures, and this of course is a long-term move. It's not a very short-term move, or probably even for the next fixture against Chelsea, but I feel things get a lot better after that. If you want to have a cheaper set and forget option in your team, guys, who is the forward? I think Tony has to be the one to go for. I think he provides great value. We know that he's a team player. He will create chances. He will give the likes of Buemo opportunities to score as well, and also involve his other teammates. I think that's a great option from an FPL perspective. Now another alternate, guys, another option could be to go for someone like an Armstrong for Southampton, who also have decent fixtures going ahead, at least from an attacking point of view, guys. I see them scoring a few goals, but I still feel that Tony pick is somewhat better. The Brentford attack could be better than the Southampton attack, and I think Tony would be my pick to go for. In case if you feel the double Brentford attack could be a bit too much, then of course Armstrong is an option to go for as well. This move, guys, it also helps us accommodate the slightly heavier defense that we just spoke about. The 2 City, 2 Chelsea defenders, they won't be possible if we don't get Tony in our team. Of course, you have routes, you have ways to still get that option. Let's say if you downgrade someone like a Phil Foden to a cheaper option, let's say someone like a Gallagher, but I still feel the balance would be a bit off. And I think if you want to go heavy at the back, if you want to take advantage of those two teams having great defenses and stay ahead of the curve, guys, I think this is a great option to go for. So these were our wildcard drafts for Game Week 8, guys. Let me know what you think about these in the comments below. Are you playing your wildcard in Game Week 8? What would be your team? Do let me know in the comments. So that'll be all from my side, guys. I hope I was able to give you some clarity in terms of a wildcard team if you are using the chip in Game Week 8. Do smash that like button if you enjoyed today's video, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well. Now we'll be back in a couple of days with a new video on the best players and the teams to target from Game Week 8 to 13. So do look out for that. Till then, keep tinkering with your teams, and I'll see you insaners next time.